This is Truth is Scarier Than Fiction, and I'd like to welcome you to three allegedly true. This is Truth is Scarier Than Fiction, and I'd like to welcome you to three allegedly true wendigo, dogmen, and skinwalker stories. Number 1. Sorry for my English. I don't usually post, but I need to share this story. I think I saw one wendigo / skinwalker / dogman a few years ago in my summer vacations in a camping village near Asturias. I was with my two best friends, searching for an abandoned house when we saw a silhouette of a big dog between the abandoned house and the forest. In that moment, I thought that the dog was the dangerous dog that I saw earlier that day, and we started to come back to the campsite. Then, the silhouette began to move and got on two legs like a human, but I can remember that the thing had dog ears. Me and my friends were freaked out and we ran to the campsite. Today, we regret not having stayed a few more seconds to see what that thing was, but at that moment, we felt a lot of danger. Number 2. So my cousin's learned his lesson about never driving loads without a gun. He's also learned, like a lot of drivers do, that the real money is out west, driving long hauls to various pod-dunk old mining towns, still trying to stay alive in the mountains and or the desert. That's big, unforgiving country, and there aren't many people willing to, and are capable of, driving across it for 12 hours trying to beat a deadline. There are even fewer drivers you can count on doing consistently, since just about all the ones willing to do it in the first place are souped up on meth, coke, whatever else will keep them up long enough to see delivery through completion. My cousin, as we've established, is clean, and has been for a long time. He's a hard worker, desperate for cash, and he's got a good van. He doesn't make excuses, and he doesn't get pulled over driving loads of stuff he hasn't weighed. All of this means that my cousin is a very in-demand guy. And what's more, it means he ends up doing a lot of high leverage jobs. Jobs that need to be done quickly, correctly, and as such, jobs that pay very, very well. Our story begins with my uncle being asked to do such a job. A good, trustworthy dispatcher has a client who needs a ton of parts delivered to his business in Flagstaff for an order that needs to be assembled and sent off ASAP. They need the parts by tomorrow. Problem is, my uncle is in Denver, and that's an 11-hour drive through hard mountains and desert. Making matters worse, the load is technically too heavy for his van. The client is desperate, however, and the dispatcher is willing to pay ludicrous amounts of money to get these things there on time. I'm talking $3,000 for 11 hours of work, with gas paid for. My cousin agrees. Yes, he is my cousin. I called him Uncle in my last post. I've always called him Uncle Bill since he's so much older than me. Hooks up with the dispatcher and they load the van as full as it's ever been. If a cop pulls him over, my cousin's screwed. He sits out plenty early after a full night's rest. Most of the drive is uneventful, though a cop does pull alongside my cousin in Utah and eyes him suspiciously before peeling off to pursue a speeder. My cousin heads south through Navajo Nation just as the sun begins to set. This is his first time in the nation, and he's going in with the darkness. It's creepy out there in the middle of nowhere, my cousin says. He just so happens to get the most beautiful night, stars as far as the eye can see, and he feels like his van could just lift right off that old highway and float off through them. He's passing the time pleasantly enough, thinking back to time spent on the reservation back in the Midwest, when something catches the corner of his eye. Black burrs flitting across the very edge of his brights, off to the left and way far ahead. He turns his head as he drives past, but of course he can't see anything since it's dark as hell. But the shapes persist. He rubs his eyes, shakes his head, and tries to refocus on the road, but they're still there. He's gone several miles now, but the shapes are staying in front of him. He wonders if there's something wrong with the headlights. Maybe there's a dead bug on one of them. Then there's a long, flat patch of desert illuminated by the moon, and he gets his first good look. Wolves? Maybe a quarter of a mile directly to the left of his car? No, there's one wolf running weirdly, but keeping up with him? As soon as he thinks this, the wolf starts to lag back a bit, and he has to deliberately remind himself to pay attention to the road so that he doesn't veer off it. But when he checks back, the wolf is still lingering, still a quarter mile off, and still shuffling weirdly, about perpendicular to his blind spot. He's losing it, he decides. No way, right? But the wolf keeps going. And then something happens, my cousin says, which he will never forget. Disturbed, he checks for cops, and then bumps his van up to 80 miles per hour, trying to leave this weird cheetah wolf behind. For a second, it seems like the wolf is fully behind him, and he's satisfied. But then, the hair on the back of his neck stands up, and he breaks out in a cold sweat. Something twitches in the corner of his eye. He looks over his shoulder, and it's the wolf. It's keeping up with him again, only this time, it's running on its hind legs. My cousin takes a double take, eyes bugging out of his head, and floors it. Then the wolf takes an angle of pursuit. He's frantically looking over his shoulder now and back at his speedometer, hardly glancing at the road. The wolf is drawing closer, even as my cousin pushes the pedal down. Before too long, the wolf is running on the very edge of the road. Then, slowly, it starts to veer across the other lane. About a mile ahead, my cousin sees two big headlights barreling down the opposite lane, and he decides he's going to do everything in his power to make sure that the semi hits the wolf, because he's in a full-on adrenaline-fueled panic. He's gulping, sweating so bad that his hands are slipping on the wheel, and breathing loudly through his mouth. The wolf keeps inching closer. Finally, my cousin floors it with everything he's got. The engine whines, straining against the heavy load. The semi barrels toward them, and in the instant before the semi would have hit the wolf, it's blaring its horn as loudly as it can. The wolf is right next to my cousin's driver's side window. I've never heard Bill lie before. This is what he says happened. I don't know what to believe. It presses its body flat against his car and stretches into a black shadow. Eventually, he swears, it takes on a humanoid form with exaggerated facial features that presses against his window. As the semi blazes past, it smashes its huge eyes and Cheshire cat grin flat against the window to the point where it fogs up on the outside. He can't tear his eyes from its eyes. It's the most malicious smile he's ever seen, and he feels something wrong, icy cold in the very core of him. Once the semi is past, the thing leaps away, shrieking with ear-splitting laughter and perching on the nearby rock. My cousin can hardly breathe, and he vomits into the seat next to him and continues to floor it. The thing stays behind, screaming and gasping with air. He makes it to the drop, still cold and nauseous. He can't look his client in the eye. He smells like vomit, and he tells the client the story. The client is certain that he's drunk, and my cousin never delivers for him again. He doesn't go through the nation ever again, as well. At the urging of one of the workers at the warehouse, he goes to see a novel old medicine man. Number 3. My wife asked me to go camping, and I hate the idea. She's excited though, so eventually I say, sure, why not? We drive to a secluded bit of land her grandparents' home, and spend hours setting up the tent and campsite. We get ready and go hiking. It rains a little, and we're getting wet, so we double back. We get back just as it's getting dark, and make a fire. We eat and talk for a while, and then decide to go to sleep. It's an inflatable mattress that we're sleeping on, with a double sleeping bag. We get in together. She's shivering. I ask if she's okay. I'm fine. She keeps shivering. I don't feel good. You said that you were fine. I don't want to ruin our trip. I'm a bit excited that we get to go home. I feel her face, and she's pretty hot. Well, it won't be any fun if you don't feel well. I think you may have a fever. I guess let's go home. We get up and get to her car. I start it and turn on the heat and start packing up our stuff. I'm in the tent deflating the mattress when the horn beeps. I run out and over the car. She says there's someone crawling around our camp. As soon as she saw them move, and was sure it was someone, she beeped the horn. I can tell she's upset, but I don't believe her. I tell her to relax, and I go back to packing. I gather everything outside the tent, and step back inside to roll up the mattress when I hear her yell my name. It sounded like it came from the woods. I'm wondering why she's outside the car, when I hear again, "Help! My leg is bleeding!" I rush out and glance at the car. She's asleep, in the seat. I feel a wave of fear. I hear something yell again, "Help me!" It still sounded somewhat like her, but also somewhat off. It was too raspy and deep. I take down the tent and just roll it up and shove it in the car. I also left a few things. I got the hell out of there. I was driving a little fast, so I woke my wife up and had her put her seatbelt on. I get home and asked her to tell me what she saw. She said it was white and thought it was a naked person crawling behind some trees. She saw them stand up against the tree, and she beeped the horn, and they dropped down and ran. This is Truth is Greater Than Fiction, and I'd like to thank you for watching my video. If you'd like more information on when my videos drop, I urge you to please follow my Twitter. And remember, fear keeps us going.